So I don't know if I've said this yet, but today's September 27th. So hopefully we're going to work problem. It's 825 in the book. So in the homework, what number was it? Number 1.
No, it's not here. We have it on the computer.
Which is it, 1 or 2?
It's 2. I'm not looking at it.
I wonder if it scrambles it. I wonder if it scrambles them.
Mine says number 2.
Why don't I just leave that part out? since it's not clear.
Number 1 is Barry J., a gown manufacturer, received an order from Kroger. No, see that number 1 right there?
I know, but I thought we saw number 4.
Well, he was doing number 2. Miss Hughes, she owner of the bedspread shop, knows his customers will pay no more than $120 for a contract. That's number 2.
Okay. I really wish there was some better way to map these. Let me think about that. For the time being, well, all but 2 of you have the book, you said. So you should be able to match this number up with whatever's in the homework. We'll do the best we can here. So let's break this down. What are we told? We'll pay no more than $120. What do you think that is?
That's what they can get for it. That's the highest they can.
Yeah, that's a selling price. That's $120. And what else can you pick out of this?
They wanted to do a 30% markup.
On what?
Seller price.
On selling. And what are we looking for? We're looking for the cost, isn't it? What we can pay for them. So these are the things we have to work with here. Let's turn back on 228, I think. No, 227. Look down that first column there and see if you see something there that relates cost and selling price and
That's like the piece of paper you gave us. It's got all that.
I can't remember which one of those I printed off.
You printed out 10227.
Yeah.
It's the one.
Well, look on the other side.
No, I'm just
Yeah.
saying.
There it is. I was trying to.
Well, look here and see if there's something, and we may have to do some manipulation here. So we're trying to find cost. We'd like to have C on this side, and we've got S and the percent markup on S that we can have on the other side. And we may have to do some manipulation. Anything there look promising? Right about the middle of the page.
Is that where it says calculating cost?
Yeah, the one that says calculating cost. Yeah, I think I pointed out to you the other day that, see, under those words calculating cost, it says S equals selling price equals cost plus markup.
Mm-hmm.
And underneath that it's got check. Well, the ones that are marked check, those are valid things you can use as well. I don't know why they called it check. Okay, because those are actually very useful. And I think we can use that one right there. It says cost equals S times what? The quantity, 1, oops, I better put the 1 in there. 1 minus the percent markup on selling. Now the good news here is we know what that is, and we know what that is, don't we? So this is looking fairly encouraging, isn't it? So the cost equals $120 times the quantity, 1 minus what? Okay, now we can rewrite that. Everybody okay with that? So, calculator.
So where did you come up with the .70?
We're told that our markup's 30% based on the selling price.
Oh, okay, the point, okay, I get it.
Yeah, I just subtracted
I get it.
0.3 from 1. Let me reword that. I'll spell this out. Cost equals $84. What I got? What'd y'all get?
Why does it just look so darn easy when we do it in here, but when I get home, it just gets all messed up?
Sorry.
You just make it look way too easy.
Sorry.
Golly, that's just wrong.
Well, one of the things I'm trying to get across to you here is this whole idea. Let's write down what we got and what we're looking for, and then go look for a formula. That's all I did. I wrote down what I got, what I'm given, and then I went to that end of the chapter thing and found a formula that had what I was given and what I'm looking for in it.
The next question is just like that. It's about the same old guy and all that kind of stuff.
Okay.
Sheets and all that. But they want to know 30% markup on the selling price.
On the cost.
Yeah. What is it?
So let's see what problem number that is. What's the next? Well, it's the next one on here. Yeah, it's 826 out of the book. So let's see what the difference would be there. And it's going to be a different formula.
Right.
So we still have the same selling price, don't we?
Yeah.
By the way, another way of referring to that selling price, in this case, would be price point. You ever hear anybody talk about price point? But that's basically, it's a key thing, and everything has a price point that's where you can actually sell the things. If I offered you, I don't know, maybe I had a piece of bubble gum. If I said I'd take $1 for it, would you buy it? No. If I said quarter, probably not. But if I got down to a nickel or 2 cents, at a certain point, you're going to be a buyer, aren't you? If you like bubble gum. I'm not much of a chewer myself. But you see what I'm saying? There's a key point there where people say, that's a good deal, and I need one, and I'll buy it. So that's what they're getting at here. So we still have the same selling price. And you can make the same argument for cookies or cakes or, certain kind of cake you probably couldn't sell it for $50, but maybe $25. People say, it's worth the trouble. I wouldn't get the stuff and cook it myself for that, and then they buy your cake. Which is a pretty big deal if you're in retail. You got to price things so that people will actually buy them. But you also don't want to price them too cheaply, because then what? That's right, you're not making as much money as you should or could. So here we go. So we got the selling still the same. This time we want 30% markup on cost. instead of selling, we still want to know what the cost is, the magic number that we can buy these and still be able to market these with a desirable markup. So go back to where we were. By the way, I think I mentioned this, but this markup here, and if you're in retail, the markup's your profit. Well, it's not your profit, it's what you can, well, what you must use to pay your rent, your people that are working for you, the electric bill, the shelves you actually put the product on, and hopefully in there somewhere you squeeze out some profit.
A penny or two.
Yeah, so that's why this markup thing is important. So let's go look and see if we find something that relates C, S, and this markup based on C. So I figured out, I've looked at this book enough, that on 226 are markups based on cost. Actually, it tells you that right there. And at the top of 227, there's markups based on selling price. So that points me, you know, to a general area I need to be looking, which is page 226. So I want C equals something, if I can. And I know S, and I know the percent markup on cost. Is there a formula there that will work for me?
Calculating the cost? Or is it calculating the selling price?
We're still doing cost.
Huh.
We're still doing cost. Look at the very bottom corner, left-hand corner,
Yes,
where it says check. Cost equals selling price divided by 1 plus percent markup on cost. Kind of right, keep going down, Gretchen. Down, right. You see it?
Cost equals the sale price over the 1 plus the percent.
Yeah. So now, let's plug in what we got here. 120, and then we got 1 plus 0.30. So that's 120 divided by 1.3, isn't it? I got 92.31. What'd y'all get? Everybody okay? Big question mark there. Now, in each case, we got 30%, 0.3. Notice on one of them, we subtracted and multiplied. The other one, we added and divided. So it just depends on whether you're basing it on selling price or on cost. But again, write down what you know and what you're looking for, and then go look for a formula. Hopefully that's already been arranged such that what you're looking for is over here by itself, and what you're given or can easily determine is over here on the right. And then plug your numbers in. There you go. I think what I'm trying to get across to you is it's good to understand the concepts of selling price and markup and etc. But on the other hand, if we were working a problem with the laws of motion or some sort of physics or chemistry, as long as we can figure out what we're given and what we're looking for and have a good book of formulas, there's a good chance we can find a relationship that somebody else has already worked out that we can plug our numbers into and come up with an answer. And yes, I own books of formulas. I like formulas, okay? I do. Sorry, I'm just that way. And there is an amazing number of formulas out there. It's simply amazing. If I think about it, I'll try to find one of my books. There's hundreds, thousands of formulas.
Then I got another one right after that.
Okay. Hey, we're on a roll. Let's roll on. Is everybody okay with this one? By the way, I don't know if y'all figured this out or not, but I like working problems, so it doesn't bother me at all to work problems.
So we're making your day then.
Yeah, I like working problems.
Well, that makes one of us.
Well, I'm hopeful that I can show you some tricks where it's not as painful as it used to be. And it looks like this problem here, I don't think I've actually talked to you about how to do this, but this is a good example of let's write down what we're given and see if we can go find something that'll work for us. So A27, our same guy wants to advertise the comforter as percent markup on cost, okay? What is the equivalent rate of percent markup on cost compared to 30% markup on selling price? Check your answer. Is this a wise marketing decision? We'll answer that in a minute. So we are told, let's see, we're told 30% markup on selling price. So 30% M on selling, and we are told we want to find what's the equivalent rate of percent markup on cost. So what we're looking for is percent M on cost. That's the big mystery. Now, is there anything else we know?
That he only wants to charge $120.
Right. He wants the selling price to be $120. Now, that's not specifically mentioned in that problem, but we know that, and we might need that. So now,
Well, he says right there, it says the customers are paying more than $120 for something.
yeah, but sometimes, well, but does it specifically say it in this problem itself? If you just looked at that one problem, you wouldn't have that information, would you? I think the other day I pointed out to you, sometimes it's not listed in the problem, but it's something you should know. And this is an example of, well, we told you 2 problems ago that he wants to sell for $120. So although it's not specifically written in this problem, we know that. Okay? So that's something we can use if we need to. We may not need to, but. So now let's go back to those columns and look at, I happen to know where it's at. Look at the bottom part of 227, left-hand column again, right in the middle of the page there. Notice it says conversion of markup percent. Now, I don't know why they wrote it this way, because to me it's a little, they give you something divided by something, but they don't tell you what that's equal to. Cost. Look back in the chapter. I think they actually spell it out here somewhere. To me, a true formula has something equals something. They don't ever tell you that, do they? Look on page 218. They just got them listed like that. We got to figure out what to do with this. Middle of 218. Formula for converting percent markup on cost to percent markup on selling price. That's not what we have, is it? We want the one on page 219. Top page 219. Formula for converting percent markup on selling price to percent markup on cost. So I'm taking that to mean that percent markup on cost is equal to what they've got listed there. Notice they've got percent markup on the selling price divided by 1 minus percent markup on selling price. Did everybody see the reason I think this is confusing is they don't really give it like that. They don't write that part out. Okay? See what I mean? That makes it a formula. Something equals something. Well, they just give you the right-hand part. Well, and this is one of these examples of I haven't really worked out the math on this, but do I really need to? I'm pretty sure if I sat down and worked at it a little bit, I could derive this formula. But do I need to? No. If I can come up with the appropriate numbers and find the right formula, I don't care that much where it came from. Somebody else figured this out for me, and I'm okay with that, although I like doing math. So let's plug in our numbers here and see if we can make some sense out of this. Or at least get an answer. Making sense is optional. Percent markup on selling price, we're told that is what? 30%. So that's 0.3. And then in the bottom, we've got 1 minus that. So 1 minus 30%. So this is what our calculation winds up to be, isn't it? Okay? And that is, calculator, clear, 0.3 divided by 0.7, which is 43. Now, we want to turn this into a what? A percentage. Now, it says round to the nearest 100%. Now, watch what's going on here. If I do that, my calculator says 0.43. Now, I could in my head say times 100. But watch what happens if I actually multiply it by 100. Since I've got my calculator set to round to 2 decimal places, it did that here. When I multiplied by 100, it showed me that it wasn't really 0.43, it was 0.4286. Okay, so I think I pointed this out to you before. If you set it at 2 decimal places, sometimes there's hidden figures there that you might need to get. Okay, now I wouldn't have counted 43% wrong, but so it's 42.86%. Now, let me copy this over and then we'll talk about what we figured out. All right, has anybody's heads exploded so far? Or? All right, first, without spending any time at all thinking about why this may be true, I wrote down what I'm given and went to the appropriate place and found a formula for taking what I was given and coming up with what I wanted. I didn't spend any time thinking about this at all, did I? I wrote down what I got and what I needed and went and looked until I found a formula that fit. Now, let's see what we're going to do with it. So it says here, is this a wise marketing decision? So what are we comparing? All right. So he wants to advertise the comforter as percent markup on cost. What is the equivalent rate? The equivalent rate is basically 43%. Then the answer is, check your answer. I don't know what that means. Well, we can plug it in one of those other formulas and should get back to the 30%. So that's the check. Is this a wise marketing decision? I think, according to the book, my book, the answer is no, because the customers will see the 42.86% instead of 30%. They will think of the markup as higher, although it's the same dollar amount. Of course, personally, I don't know why he'd want to advertise any kind of markup at all. Although I have seen several car advertisements that'll say, $100 over list or something. They don't really give a percentage, and that's very much misleading, because if you get into how cars are priced, it's really complicated, and it doesn't necessarily have much to do with the list price. Anyway, I can't figure out why he'd want to say what his markup is. Would you? And if I was going to say anything at all, I'd say it's $20 over cost, or I just put a dollar figure on there, because most people don't like to do what? Percents. Okay. So they understand dollars, but they don't understand percents. But anyway, regardless of what all that means, notice what I did. I wrote down what I've got and what I'm looking for, and went looking for a formula. And I found one. Okay? And this book is really good about providing those end of the chapter kind of summaries. It's got pretty much most of what you need to know in there. Pretty handy. Okay? Y'all okay? Are we through? Are we comforted? That's funny. Me and D'Angelo are having fun with this. Nobody else got it, got it?
I got it. No pun intended.
Well, this is a tough crowd. Well, I'm comforted. This is a good day to have a comforter, isn't it? Okay, you guys okay? Anything else in this chapter 8? Well, keep looking at them. If something else pops up, we can go back and look at those. Not a big deal. What about chapter 10? You may have not had much chance to work on any of these problems. Read it to me. Number 2, you say? It may be one that's kind of fill in the blanks. Let me see what it is. Is it 9 3/4 or 6 3/4%? Yeah, I think I read it wrong. Okay. I got it.
Yeah, I think, no, we're in chapter 10.
Yeah, we moved on to chapter 10 now. I think it's 10:3 in the book. So you're given that the principal equals 20,000. Interest is, let me get where I can see it. 6 3/4 is what it looks like to me. So that's the rate now we have to turn that into a what? What happened?
I did it. Number 5 on that last chapter.
Ooh.
Make sure I can just do it all by myself.
All right.
Because I can't do it all by myself at home and nobody.
You'll get there.
I'm so excited now. I did it.
You'll get there. Now we need to turn this 6 3/4% into a decimal, don't we? As an intermediate step, you could do this. And now you can move your decimal places. Did everybody follow converting the 6 3/4 to a decimal? Okay? Everybody okay? Okay. Now what else are we given? Anything? Yeah. We're given t equals 9 months. And what are we supposed to find? The simple interest? So simple interest equals principal times rate times time. So here we have 20,000 times our rate of 0.0675 times, now our time is given in months. So this 6.75% is for a whole year. So I need to express the time in the appropriate units that I'm given. So I'm given months, and I need to write the time out like that using 12 months as the denominator. You see, I'd write it that way so those two things cancel out. So at this point, months are gone. All I got's money, and then I got $20,000 times a percent, which is basically, for practical purposes, it's dimensionless. And then 9/12, and the months are gone. Seriously, there's a year in there somewhere, but just don't worry about where it's at. It takes care of itself. It's still lurking in there. So everybody's okay with what we got so far? So, calculator. $20,000 times 0.0675 times, now again with one of these graphing calculators you can do this. Parentheses 9 divided by 12, close parentheses. And if you look at that and say 9 divided by 12 is 0.75, I don't care. It is. So what'd y'all get? Let me change colors here. I got $1,012.50. Now that's the simple interest. It also wants the maturity value. So the maturity value is equal to the principal plus the interest. So the principal is $20,000 plus the $1,012.50. So M equals $21,012.50. And you can do it on the calculator if you want to. Plus 20,000. And I'll make a copy of that. Paste. Everybody okay with that one? No, if you are, I want to show you something. Everybody okay? Now, with this calculator, I can do something magical here, I think. I'm going to clear this. if I do second and entry, I get the previous operation. If I do second entry again, I'm back. I go back one step. Now, if for some reason I didn't convert the decimal properly, watch this. If I forgot that zero, so I'm just going to change that. Does everybody see I just purposely made a mistake? Watch. If I press enter, I'm going to come up with, boy, $10,000 worth of interest on $20,000 for a year. Not even a year. Does that make any sense? I hope not. Okay, that's a lot. And by the same token, if I did this, where's my insert? Yes, second insert. If I put in too many decimal places, I'd come up with $100 of interest. Again, $20,000 a year, you're only going to pay $100 worth of interest. Does that make sense? Don't think so. So always look at the reasonableness of your answer. And if it doesn't make sense, if it doesn't seem reasonable, go back and check your numbers. And one of the things that you're more likely to make a mistake on is converting that decimal. Okay, so always ask yourself the question, does that answer make any sense at all? Okay? All right. What else in chapter 10? Anything else that's popped out so far? And if you work on them over the weekend, you have any more problems, we can look at it next week. Is everybody okay so far? Because there's there's a couple more things we can talk about in the chapter. I think we got probably time to go over one of them. Is everybody okay so far? All right. So in chapter 10, look on page 270.
So, okay, I got a question. So the simple interest is $1,012.50.
Yeah.
And then the maturity is the 21.
Right, that's the total you have to pay back, because you got to pay back the 20,000 as well. Okay. But if you're going to start a small business, you're probably going to have to borrow some money. So this is kind of important, I guess. Now, on 270, the bottom of page 270, they talk about this idea of the U.S. rule, making partial note payments before the due date. So read the first couple sentences there. Often, a person may want to pay off a debt in more than one payment before the maturity date. And I advise you, if you can, do this. Okay, you save yourself money. And if you're going to take out a loan, that's one of the questions you should ask. Can I pay early? Can I pay extra? If you're set up say you're set up on some kind of monthly payments. Say your monthly payment is, $475. Well, boy, if you could make a payment of $500, it's amazing how much that helps you. Okay, over the life of the loan. So you always want to ask the question, can I pay early? Is there any penalty for paying early? There's usually not, but doesn't hurt to ask. So anyway, this U.S. rule, third sentence, the U.S. rule states that any partial loan payment first covers any interest that has built up. Okay, so that's what you have to remember. So let's find ourselves a problem and work it out. So this is a partial partial payment problem. 1013 is a partial, but I'd rather work one that's not an odd number. How about 1030? Okay, everybody got 1030? It's on page 279. 1030. Sean borrowed $17,000. So P equals $17,000 on a 120-day. And we need that number for certain purposes, but not for everything. 12% note. Okay, so this 128 day note means that at the end of 120 days, Sean needs to pay everything back plus the interest, or he's going to have to renegotiate his terms. That's all that means. The 12% still means 12% a year. Now, 120 days is not a whole year, is it? Okay. So let's see here. After 65 days, Sean pays $2,000 on the note. On day 89, he pays an additional $4,000. What's the final balance due? Determine the total interest and the ending balance due by the U.S. rule. Use ordinary interest. Ordinary interest just says what? There's 360 days in a year instead of 365. Okay. So here's what happens here. Now you got to do this in steps. Okay? So here's the way I do it. After 65 days, here's what you want to do. Calculate, I'll write it down. Calculate interest due after 65 days. Okay? Subtract that I from the payment. Okay? The remainder of the payment is then subtracted from P. Now proceed like it is a new loan with a new P, because it is a new P. Okay, now here's what you do. For each step along the way here, you figure out how much. First thing you got to do is figure out how many days something has been going on. Okay, you got to get your times right. For this first step, how long has he had the loan? 65 days. Now the 120 is big wall out at the end. In the middle, it'll say day 65, this happens. Day 89, this happens. So really, the only time you worry about the 120 is the very last part. Okay? Up until then, you worry about, how long these things have been going on in the middle. So after 65 days, he's had the money 65 days. And so let's work this out. So let's see. Interest after 65 days is going to be the principal. Nothing new here. Times the rate. We turn that into a decimal. Times, and we've had it for 65 days. And we're told it's going to be simple interest. So it's going to be 65 over 360. All right, does everybody see where those numbers come from? Okay, calculator. $17,000 times 0.12. It's pretty steep interest. Times the quantity. And since I got a graphic calculator, I can do this. If you don't have a graphic calculator, you're going to have to do that part first and then do the multiplication. So I press enter and I find out that after 65 days, the interest due is $368.33. By the way, let me show you something.
My construction calculator does something.
Well, how many people just have a simple calculator? How many people have a graphic calculator or something pretty fancy? Most of you are okay. If you didn't, you could do this. 65 divided by 360. Okay, enter. That gives you that, and then on your simple calculator, if you just press multiply, it's going to take that number there and multiply it by whatever you print in and put in next. Then you could do the 17,000 times the 0.12. So if you have a regular calculator, do this part first. Okay? Just in case. So, is everybody okay? You figure out, you see where this came from? This was the interest due after 65 days. I'll write that down. This is the interest due after 65 days. Now, actually, if Sean had to come in and said, I'm going to pay the whole loan off, he would have still owed $368.33 of interest, plus the original principal. Okay, now he's not going to pay the whole loan off, but that's the interest up till this date. Okay? Now here's what we're going to do next. The amount that goes toward principal is going to be, how much did he pay? $2,000 minus the $368.33. Now think about why this is so. He comes in with $2,000 and he says I want to pay this on the note. So the banker or whoever holds the note calculates all the interest for the $17,000 through 65 days. Comes up with $368.33. They subtract that from the amount of the payment. Okay, so that's what we're going to do right now. So 2,000 minus 368.33. So of Sean's $2,000 payment, $1,631.67 is now going to be put toward the amount he originally borrowed, the principal. Okay? So here's what we're going to do with that. So the new principal is going to be the $17,000 he originally borrowed minus $1,631.76. So 17 minus 16, 31, 67. $15,368.33. $68.33. All right, everybody see where that came from? Now here's what I recommend. Everybody okay so far? At this point, assume this is a new loan. For all intents and purposes, it is. This new P equals $15,368.33. R is still 12%, and I'm not going to say anything about the time just yet, because we've got to look and see what else is going on. So what's the next thing we're told?
That he paid $4,000 on 89 days.
On day 89. Okay, so what's the next time? The next time is 89 days, what? $65 days. Isn't that 24 days? Think about why that is so. On day 65, he made a payment. We did the calculations. We know what he owes going forward. On day 89, from the original starting point of the loan, he makes another payment. Well, that means he's had this $15,368.33 for 24 days. Okay, so that's what we use to calculate the time on this next part. Okay, so let's do that. Interest equals PRT. The principal is now $15,368.33. R is still 0.12. The new time here is 24 over 360. Calculator. Times the quantity 24 divided by 360. So I got $122.95 as the interest on this next little block of time. Okay? Everybody okay with that? Now, just like before, what did we do before? Well, we figured the interest, and then what?
Subtract it.
That's right, we have to subtract it from the payment. So, by the way, we should have said day 89 here. So this is day 89. So the amount that goes toward principal is going to be the payment was what, $4,000?
Yeah.
$4,000 minus $122.95. Calculator. 4 minus 122.95. $38.7705. Okay, Now that's the amount that's going to be available to be put toward the principal. And just like before we did this, we said there's a new principal, isn't there? The new P is going to be the old P, which is $15,368.33 minus what's left of his $4,000 after we subtract the interest. So 15,368.33 minus 38,7705. Okay. $11,491.28. Everybody okay with that? Everybody okay? So that was his second partial. He doesn't make any more partials, does he? So now this is the only time we can actually consider that 120 days, because that's the only thing that's left. So on day 120, the principal was down to $11,491.28. R is still 12%. T is 120 minus 89, because that's the last time you made a payment. So what's T? 31 days, isn't it? Okay. So just like before, I said after 65 days he makes a partial payment, do the calculations, figure the interest, subtract that from the payments, and then whatever's left, subtract that from the principal. Then pretend like you got a new note. Okay, after 89 days, same thing. Take your new principal, calculate the interest, subtract that from the payment, whatever's left, subtract that from the principal, and you got a new note. So on day 120, we've had this amount of money for that amount of days. Okay? So, interest is PRT. $11,491.28. 12%. 31 days over 360 days. Okay? Let's see here. I'll just clear all that out. 11,491.28 times 0.12. I can pull the trigger too soon. I can get out of here. Second entry. Here, let's do this. I'm just trying to get back to I pulled the trigger too soon. Huh. Interesting. I lost it. 11,491.28 times 0.12 times the quantity divided by 360. Of course, we're running over time period for class. What's wrong with you people? Letting me do that. $118.74. And if you look at this, it says the total interest. You just add up all these interests, and the ending balance is going to be this number right here plus the $118.74. So y'all can finish this problem, and I'll give you one or two of these to work on over the weekend. Oh, these are big fun, I think.
Or can't you just get an amortization schedule and not have to?
No, not with the partials. We'll get to the amortization schedules. Don't worry, we will. All right, I'll see y'all next week. I think it may be kind of fair and nice for 2 or 3 days this weekend. Is it not raining and 70 degrees? So, hope it works out for us. See y'all later.